This video is for people who have noticed the correlation between the astrology, especially full moons, and their spiritual awakening journey. You may have noticed that during the full moons, you feel a lot more sensitive, a lot more psychically open. You might feel as if sometimes the full moon is almost influencing the direction of your life, like fate has a stronger pull, destiny has a stronger influence. And the combination of you being more sensitive, being more cracked open spiritually and psychically, and your life kind of running away sometimes in unexpected directions can be a little bit, sometimes a lot of bit chaotic. It can be confusing, it can be overwhelming. And a lot of people I've found make the mistake of seeing this as just something to endure, which I can understand. But what I found, and maybe you have as well, is that this is the essence of transformation. Full moons seem to have a way of accelerating our transformation process, which, yeah, it can be messy, it can be challenging, it can be confusing, it can be surprising, but it can also be extremely insightful. It can be very enlightening. It can be unspeakably cleansing and healing. And oftentimes these unexpected directions our life has taken are for our best interest, or for our highest good, are more resonant with the true self that we have grown into. And what this video here is, you might be wondering, is I like to share the various themes associated with the particular full moons. In which case we have one tonight, December 4th, 2025. It's a final full moon of the year, very potent. It's in the sign of Gemini, which is my sign. I'm a double Gemini. And I'm excited to share with you the 5 main themes. Theme number 1, you might feel scattered and ungrounded. You might feel like your brain and your mental activity is on overdrive. That's kind of the nature of the Gemini energy. Welcome to my life. That's how I live most of the time. But it does seem to be amplified, and not just me, of course, but other people as well. It's the sign of the astrology right now many of us are experiencing. And I'll tell you, from a Gemini, as a friend to a friend, what I've noticed is that even though this can be chaotic, even though your sleep might be disrupted, even though you feel preoccupied with your mind and you maybe don't feel at peace and quiet and still and tranquil all that often, there's a relentlessness to this Gemini ungrounded energy. And as ungrounded as it can also be very creative. It can also be very insightful. It can also help you kind of put words to what may have been vague inspirations from the recent past. And it's a good time to figure things out, write things down, map out your next steps. By now, you probably gained a lot of clarity over the last couple of months, especially, a lot of healing and a lot of maybe reevaluating of who you are and where you want to go and what really matters to you. And you may have felt kind of stagnant and stuck for quite a while, like, okay, I'm changing, I'm transforming, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm expanding, but what does it really mean? What am I to do with this? And this is where this energy, this Gemini energy, can be so extremely helpful, because it can be the initial stages of doing, which oftentimes require planning, thinking creatively about how might you take your life to the next level? How might you accomplish what might be a new goal, a burning passion that you've sort of uncovered within yourself and sense maybe part of your destiny? What can you do realistically in practical terms? That's where the Gemini mental activity can come to your aid. But what you'll find is that if it's not focused on what really matters, on what really resonates, it can feel kind of disruptive, and you can feel like you're going off on a tangent and burning out your energy. So I'm just trying my best to describe the pros and cons of the energy you might be feeling. So again, on one hand, it's normal if you feel a bit like, if you're not at peace, if you feel like just ants in your pants, basically. At the same time, if you can focus all that mental activity into something you've already decided that is important to you. Maybe it's a new goal, maybe a new project, a new direction, maybe it's a greater sense of your divine purpose, and you can focus it there. You can make a tremendous lot of progress. You can have a tremendous amount of creative breakthroughs and personal insights, personal revelations even, and you can take a huge step in moving forward in a direction that is going to be awesome and exciting and perfect for you. Number 2 will pertain more so to your relationships. It's a bit more specific. But you might find that you're starting to see people in your life through a very different lens, with more accuracy. And this can be good when you recognize just how much someone cares for you, or you're able to see just the depth of love you have with another person. It can also be a little bit in the opposite, where you're seeing people's intentions more accurately. And that is unsettling sometimes when it's somebody who you maybe once saw through rose-colored glasses and therefore didn't have to deal with the truth of that person. And all of a sudden the blinders are off and there they are. And it can be kind of messy sometimes, especially when you're locked in with them in a personal relationship. Or I've had old business partners fall away for similar reasons like this. Old friends, old high school buddies. All of a sudden I just can't unsee what I've seen. And also, this usually happens when you've grown and when you've evolved in yourself. All of a sudden, your standards are different. And this could be even a relationship with something. It doesn't have to be people per se. It could be a situation. It could be a job. I remember, as an example, years ago, my wife and I, when we first had our spiritual awakening, we moved down to South Florida. We grew up in Michigan, so to us, Florida was like where people went from Michigan to get out of the cold in the winter, and I was there a few times, and I just loved it. To me, it represented, obviously, warmth and sunshine and the beach and the ocean and surfing, and it was like when you're in those cold Michigan winters, it was like a paradise. And eventually, my wife and daughter and I, a long time ago, we moved down there, and it was amazing. We even found this beautiful place near the beach, and it was kind of like a dream come true. But all of a sudden, one day, I woke up and I went for a walk, and I just, for some reason, just saw everything differently. I had changed. During that time, I was going through a lot of spiritual growth, and after about 9 or so months on this particular day, I just noticed how flat it was. How even though there was the ocean, it was nothing but like huge hotels on the ocean. And I was trying to find some type of pure nature, and I wasn't really having it even at the beach because there was just so many people and so much going on. And I eventually went to this, they call it the Intercoastal in South Florida. And I went to this little I don't know, river, stream thing, I don't know. So, some little waterway that's connected to the ocean, but separate from it. And I went and I sat there just trying to find solace, and this big, ugly, machine-looking tank of a like worker boat just sort of slowly clogged on by, black smoke filling the air. And this is not knocking Florida, I still love it. But it was like all of a sudden, what I had sort of hyped up in my mind, this Florida, it's the beach, it's surfing, all of a sudden I was seeing it as it really was. And it wasn't bad or good, but it wasn't compatible. It was not nearly what my sort of fantasy was telling me. I was finally seeing the truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. We moved shortly after that. But it's challenging. This is where I lived, and all of a sudden I was so set. I felt so safe and so comfortable, like I had figured out where I'm going to be living for the rest of my life. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, actually, no, this is not a fit at all. So this phenomenon is what I'm discussing here. And it oftentimes can happen with relationships, and it can be equally challenging. However, what's the alternative? To continue seeing things in a way that you are maybe more convenient, but not actually true. To ignore things that are not in your best interest, not resonating with you, to avoid sometimes the changes you sort of will feel compelled to make. No, none of us want that. We can't bury our head in the sand. That's the opposite of awakening. And right now, this full moon is helping you awaken. It's helping you wake up to who you are, what you deserve, and what resonates. And this can, of course, imply big changes sometimes, but these changes are good. These changes are beneficial. When you can finally kind of digest and accept the truth of however this relates to you, and then open up, at the very least, open up to the possibility of making a change, then the universe can show you, hey, listen, I know you thought you wanted this thing, but we have this other thing. It's way better, and we want you to see this clearly so you can just accept it, let it go, and you create space for the new relationship, the new opportunity, the new upgraded, higher vibe living situation. Whatever resonates with you, my friend, it's a time of upgrade. But for us to upgrade, we have to be willing to let go of what no longer serves. Number 3, a lighter path is opening up. The main theme here is that you've grown, you transformed. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Like look back in the last 3 months. How deep did you go into yourself, into your psyche, into your trauma, into your wounds? How much change has been sort of brewing and taking place? There's been a lot going on. You know, I'm writing a book right now about the dark night of the soul. And throughout my coaching sessions over the last several months, I have just talked to so many people who are literally going through the epitome of a dark night of the soul. But it's not all dark. You know, St. John of the Cross, he says that during the dark night of the soul, it's actually like God or source, however you want to call it, I don't care. It's like God essentially is infusing itself into the soul. It's a beneficial thing. And there are eventual awesome, real, tangible results of this level of soul and body and mental like purification that many of us have been going through for quite some time. And now we're entering a time where we've done a lot of cleansing and purifying and healing and releasing. And we can't help what we've uncovered. And what we've uncovered, what you've uncovered, is more of yourself, more of your power, more of your true worth, more of your soul's essence and radiance. And what happens when that happens is it starts to be like mirrored in your life as upgraded careers, upgraded living situations, upgraded relationships sometimes, upgraded outfits. It could be anything. It's time for like a makeover on all levels. And it's gonna be easier, it's gonna be more expansive, it's gonna give you more time for joy and peace and the things that you decided matter to you. But here's the caveat. This all sounds well and good, but usually this beautiful upgrade will begin with a breaking down of things that no longer resonate. And again, like with the relationship, it can be challenging. When you are fired from your job, or you come home and you realize that you cannot live here another day, it's just not for you. Or you're just so comfortable and used to a situation, it can be surprising when that situation, whatever it is, a friend group, a job, a business, whatever it is, starts to change on a dime. However, there's a flip side. There's another side to this. It's an upgraded version of that. And usually what people do when things start to kind of change and these upgrades start to kind of come closer is we hang on and we cling to an old situation. That just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. A friend of mine, Kyle Cease, would always say, if it's heavy now, it's gonna get even heavier later on. So you might as well just let go. You might as well like trust that your dreams can come true. But anything that's in direct conflict with what you now know and can't deny, you truly would prefer, it's not gonna work. But the challenge is letting go of that before the dream has fully arrived. That's where the faith comes in. That's why it's scary. Many years ago, I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. And when I started doing my coaching from people who are going through a spiritual awakening from my YouTube channel, it was the most amazing thing ever. I couldn't have asked for, I couldn't have mapped out a better way to earn a living and feed my family. It was amazing. You know, at that time when I was doing coaching, I was living in San Diego. We had moved eventually again to another like sunny place. And I would go to the beach to do the coaching. I was on the phone at that time. I'd bring a little camping chair and I'd sit out there in the early mornings. It was just me, stretch of beach as far as the eyes could see. Dolphins were playing in the distance, and I would sit there and I would coach people. I'd be done by like noon. I'd go home and I'd play with my kids all day. It was great. But I continued to change. I continued to grow. Destiny continued to kind of, steer me around throughout my existence. And I came to a point where that once amazing situation became heavy. It became stressful. It became out of alignment, essentially. But the trick for me at that time was, well, that's how I pay the bills. That's how I feed my family. I can't let go of this yet with nothing else tangible to replace it. But as Kyle warned, it got heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. And eventually I just knew. I'd been through these cycles long enough to see where it was going. The trajectory was just, by hanging on, things were just becoming more and more out of alignment. And I was manifesting, you could say, more and more problems and complications. And I just knew it's not gonna work long term. The energetics are, for whatever reason, off. I gotta let go. And I finally did. I just stopped taking on clients. And it was tough because nothing new came in immediately. And what happened, as I suspected and feared, clients started dropping off. People would work with me for, at that time, either 3 or 6 months. So after the person's done with 3 months or 6 months, they'd be gone, their monthly payment would be gone. And slowly but surely my income was reduced to almost nothing, barely enough to survive. In fact, not even enough to survive. And at one point, we went shopping for new furniture. We had moved into a new house at that time. And I got back excited about the new couch and stuff like that. And I looked into my bank account and I saw that we overdrafted. And there was not enough money at all to afford what I just purchased. And I had to take some of it back. And at that point I was like, where are you, Spirit? When is it, when am I gonna be shown why I felt so strongly compelled to let go? And then I had this idea to run a retreat. And then my mind, in its Gemini fashion, started to kind of just start spinning, with all the ideas and possibilities of what that represented. And what it represented was the ability to sort of coach people in one group in a 3 or 4 day span all at once. It was a way to earn as much, if not more money, put in a lot less time, and take people even arguably deeper. And I was grateful to discover that running those retreats was one of the most satisfying and fulfilling and just soulful things I've ever done in my entire life. But I would not have had that idea if I continued to cling to what was once in alignment. And not only did this come in, but my life became easier. And at the time of letting go of the coaching, I couldn't understand what could possibly come to replace my income. In my mind, I had a limited idea of there's this option, I could do this. None of it made sense. None of it seemed like a fit. None of it seemed easier, but there was this other idea that I had yet to think of that did in fact not only check all the boxes that I needed to feel safe, but gave me again a whole new dimension of happiness and freedom and peace. And it was this amazing blessing from the universe that wouldn't have come had I continued to hang on. My life got easier, felt more expansive, and it worked out for the best. And so will it for you, my friend. You may have even felt for a while that your journey was kind of building you towards something like this. Things are breaking down, you're changing, you're healing, you're growing, your perspective's changing, you're reevaluating who you are over the last several months, and all of a sudden it's and during that time, you maybe even have gleaned that this must be because something else is meant to be in my life. I'm meant to be doing something different. I'm meant to be a different version of myself. Well, guess what? It's here. It's coming. It's saying, okay, it's time. It's time to let go of the client. It's time to do the retreat. It's time to start moving towards your dreams. And even though it might seem a little far-fetched, it's going to be the most efficient path forward for you, and it can lead you to a life that you never thought possible. Number 4 comes from a book I read called Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawking. On a very general, fundamental level, what you might be running into, and I kind of alluded to it briefly earlier, is kind of overwhelm, confusion, fatigue even, feeling scattered, there's not enough gas in the tank to do all the things you got to do. And that's because that's force. That's the mind looking around at life saying, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. The mind sometimes fails to realize just how limited it is, just how it should have never been given such a rank of authority in our life. You know, I'm a huge fan of Bashar, and he always says this. He always says the physical mind, how does he put it? He's like, the physical mind, the ego structure was never meant to be anything more than like a simple little diving mask, just so we can kind of comprehend physical reality. It was never ever, the mask, the diving mask was never ever designed to like carry on its back the burden of knowing how everything's going to unfold and what it has to do and when it has to do it and tying all the pieces together. That's for the soul, the higher self, the spirit, the intuition. That's the part of our consciousness that can see from the mountaintop, like an eagle. It just soars. It can see a lot. And that's kind of like when you let the eagle guide you, you let your intuition guide you, and you put your energy into that and not waste it and disperse it doing things that the mind thinks it ought to do, that's when you finally have harmony and balance. That's when you can kind of feel like the wind's back in your sails and you're moving forward. And as we go through these soul shakeups, these changes, it can be a period of figuring out what those right directions are. Like, to your own defense and mine, like it's not like you always know what to do and you're just ignoring it. Sometimes you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you're doing something and wondering why it's so draining, or just it's not giving you energy anymore, and it's causing imbalance in your life. And you're like, well, this is what I used to do. This I don't understand, you know? But you can take that as feedback. Okay, something's off here. Something's off here. And you'll have a lot more of an ability to recognize when you do something in alignment, it's gonna flow. It's gonna be obvious. You're gonna feel it. And when you do something that's not in alignment, it's gonna be obvious. It's gonna be heavy. It's gonna drain you. It's gonna create like repercussions in your life. An example. Yesterday, for example, a kind of a small example, I knew I should just write all day, like emails in my book. But for some reason, because I knew this video was to go out today, my mind would have felt a lot better had I filmed this video I'm doing now yesterday. Because what if I wake up tomorrow, my mind said, and I'm not feeling it, or something happens and I can't do it. So my mind kept trying to film the video. But because I had been writing all day, I was like fatigued. I was just like creatively spent. And I like tried to film it like 5, 6, 7 times. And then I stopped. Then later that day I tried again. And it was so obvious to me that I was forcing. And I eventually realized, like, bro, you're not even being a good example of what you're preaching. This is you forcing it. And I finally realized that. And I even woke up in the morning still like unsure of what to talk about. I was still unclear about that. But then on the way home from the gym, like an hour ago, bop, 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 all these things popped in my head. And now it feels fine. It feels like this is a much better quality and much more accurate, much more in alignment than what I was trying to force out yesterday. But all that force just took out more energy. It was like a waste of creative energy I didn't even really have, because my mind was telling me I had to do something. So I share this as just an example of how you might be operating. You might find that you're like insisting on doing things and you're running into walls. Well, you can take that, as I eventually did, as information to think like, maybe I don't need to do this right now. Maybe I don't have to do this at all. Maybe I can trust that the right move, the right action will present itself at the right time. How much easier does that feel? To let go. To let the diving mask take a freaking break for once. And to know there's a deeper, higher intelligence. It's got your back. It knows what's supposed to happen. It knows what you're going to think. It knows what you're going to do. And it knows the best, most efficient way to order all this stuff. And when you can like yield to that, you have power, baby. You have a lot of power. You don't need to force. And the things that matter, you can put your full energy into it. And that's what really can move the needle in your life. Just like in business, they talk about the 80-20 rule. It's a perfect metaphor because this full moon is going to help you know what your 20% is. The 80-20 rule, if you don't know, is 80% of your yield in whatever, business, life, oftentimes comes from only 20% of what you're doing. So when you can identify that 20%, the thing that moves the needle the most, that's what this full moon is going to help you do by tuckering you out when you're doing things you shouldn't be doing or don't need to be doing. And finally, number 5, I'll explain it because it won't make sense initially, is trusting the subtle threads. So what I suggested a second ago, just to let go and let the higher mind sort of take the reign, it sounds great in theory, but it's hard. The mind, the ego, the personality, it freaks out because spirit, the guidance, I speak of it, it's not linear, it's not predictable, it's oftentimes seems absent, it can be kind of vague and mysterious and sometimes just intangible. And so therefore, a lot of times we'd rather just take control and take charge of our own life because it just doesn't seem safe to let go to that degree. And yet what you might find is that's exactly what's being asked of you. To let go and trust more than you maybe ever have in your entire life. There are levels to having faith. Faith is a word many people throw around, but when it comes down to it, you can see in their behavior oftentimes, even their thinking, that they don't actually have it. None of us have it that much, realistically. But this full moon, this type of energy, and it's been kind of building in the last several months, it's going to allow you to really practice faith. You might even see faith as being your only option. Because again, forcing is getting you nowhere. It's a time to trust the subtle threads. The subtle threads is a variable. It's the variable that many of us don't consider, the variable of divine intervention, fate, destiny, however you want to put it. It comes from an author named Robert Johnson. He talks about the subtle threads as those like key, unplanned for moments or experiences that change the trajectory of your life in an enormous and profound way. What comes to mind is when I met my wife. I met my wife, Patty. We just celebrated our 17-year anniversary, just to say. Very proud of that. I met her when I was like 20 years old. I met her at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Not the most glamorous. People always say, how did you meet? Well, at a 12-step meeting. But anyway, the way this worked out is at that time in my life, I was recently clean from heroin, about a year or so. And I had I didn't know where to go. I didn't fit in anywhere, basically. All my old high school buddies, they weren't using heroin, but they were partying a lot, and I didn't really feel like it was smart to kind of hang with those guys. And as a nonconformist, I didn't find myself jiving with all the folks at the meetings. I didn't get along with them necessarily either. And I felt very, very alone. And one day I got on my knees and I looked out my parents, I lived with my parents at the time, and I looked out the window and I let out this sincere prayer. I said, God, please, please bring to me my forever person, my soulmate. And then I swear to you, a few days later, I went to a meeting and there was this beautiful girl who was late. She's, to this day, she's quite late sometimes, I'd say. And she got in and there was literally nowhere else to sit. Probably 80 people in this room, all broken up into various tables, not a single chair. And I watched her kind of look around. And the only chair that was available was the one directly in front of me across the table. And she sat in front of me and I thought to myself, oh my God, what a beautiful specimen. And at that time I didn't think much of it because I didn't really have the courage to talk to her. I didn't think, I wasn't sure. But anyway, after the meeting parted, we all kind of got up and left, and I found myself once again, as I just sort of made my way outside, crossing paths with her again. Out of all the people, we literally walked into each other almost. And from there, we sparked up a conversation, and the rest is history. Been married. But my point is, this subtle thread, my soulmate, the most unexpected place ever to expect to meet such a pivotal relationship. It happened. It was fate, destiny, I don't know. So I say this to remind you that as you're mustering up the courage to do all the things I've shared, to let go of the things you know you don't need in exchange to delve once again into the unknown on blind faith. Don't discount the subtle threads. Don't minimize the universe's ability to give you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it, to take your life to that next level.